This story begins by introducing a man who has come to speak about a very important matter. A few seconds later, some guards bring in a female prisoner with the code C250 on her dress. The man gets straight to the point. Very few people have the power to get someone out of prison. Fortunately, he is one of them, and he is here to make a deal. Some highly valuable objects were lost a while ago, but if she decides to help them find them and return them to their rightful owner, she will be set free. At that moment, the man reveals the name of the man they are looking for, Tewksbury, and the scene goes black, taking us immediately 1 year into the future. We move from a sad and gloomy scene inside a prison to a fully decorated church illuminated by the sunlight, where the guests are waiting patiently for the bride, just like her future husband, whose smile couldn't be any bigger. The big problem is that quite some time has passed now, and the bride is nowhere to be found. People are already starting to get impatient, and rumors that she won't show up are briefly heard in the distance. And who could the bride be? Well, none other than Enola, our clever protagonist, who is having a severe case of cold feet since she never imagined herself as a simple lady after all the adventures she has lived through. After all, she has risked enough to make herself worthy of the Holmes last name, rather than leaving it all behind to become Lady Enola Tewksbury, a high society lady who will never face danger again for a single day of her life. In this moment of pure nerves, she could only think of a phrase her mother told her in the past. There are only two paths to take, the one that belongs to you and the one that others choose for you. However, Enola is not willing to leave her fiancé at the altar, so she gets into the carriage as fast as she can and asks the driver to go at full speed. Unfortunately, halfway there, a problem appears. A man has started following them at high speed on his horse, and he doesn't seem to have very good intentions. The driver tells her to hold on and stay inside, since Malta, the place where she plans to get married, is crawling with bandits and thieves, and he is surely one of them. Unfortunately for the villain, he is facing Enola Holmes, and in just a few seconds, she climbs to the top of the carriage and grabs a rifle to shoot at him immediately. Right before Enola pulls the trigger, the man reveals his face, and we realize it is Watson, her brother's right-hand man and the person he trusts most. Unfortunately, the big surprise causes her to lose her balance, and she ends up falling off the speeding carriage and taking a nasty spill. When the young woman manages to stand up and tell him off to his face, giving him the peace of mind he deserves for approaching with a bandana over his face like a bandit, Watson reveals that there is a bigger problem. Sherlock has been kidnapped. But to discover what caused all of this, we must take a look into the past, right to the moment when Enola finally got her official detective certificate and joined her brother in his work. He took care of the rich, and she took care of the poor to gain experience. One afternoon, while they were investigating a strange murder, she tells us that from Monday to Friday, she was very happy doing detective work. And the weekends, well, the weekends were a bit different, because those days belonged to Ernest Tewksbury, the boy who had stolen her heart and who owned every single one of her smiles. Well, until the day came when her face went completely pale upon seeing Ernest drop to one knee and propose to her. The news of the female detective turning into a lady didn't take long to spread all across the city. Everyone seemed interested in the matter, everyone except Sherlock, who had become obsessed with a case. He was so consumed by it that he stopped writing in understandable Spanish and invented his own language so Enola couldn't read his notes, keeping her completely in the dark about his progress. A week later, when Enola traveled to Malta to meet Ernest's mother, she asked her about the guest list she wanted for the big event, and Enola handed her a small scrap of paper with the name of her brother, Watson, and no one else. Since explosives became easily accessible in London, her mother had become a bit volatile and climbed to the top of the city's most wanted list. It was during that lunch with Ernest's mother that Enola found out she would be getting married in Malta, a small island far from civilization where her future mother-in-law had wed. It was a place with a very high sentimental value for the family, so she just couldn't say no. And from that day on, the luxuries, the pompous wedding gowns, and everything that goes into becoming a lady began to appear. That included the massive dinners with important, boring people who only turn to look at you to criticize you immediately. In fact, during the toast by his uncle, a man named Samson, who is in charge of the island's security, he couldn't help but point out Enola's humble background, causing a slight chuckle among the guests, and wishing Ernest that this wouldn't delay his political advancement in the House of Lords. So now we know that she is not very well regarded among the rich and powerful. However, what caught Sherlock's attention was the mysterious man above everyone else, who was watching them closely, but keeping out of sight, like a hawk stalking its prey. After dinner, Enola noticed noticed that her brother was upset, so she went into his room to discuss the matter. He told her straight up that he never expected this from her, accepting a tradition she doesn't know, and a cookie-cutter life in exchange for a title she won't use seems utterly disappointing to him. Giving up the family name and her talents as a great detective is the biggest mistake she could have ever come up with. Enola innocently tells him that no one will change, but Sherlock is absolutely sure that nothing will ever be the same. Does she really believe that her future husband, a man destined for the House of Lords, will just let her roam around the city, getting into dangerous situations and letting the gossip's tongues wag? That is why they now reveal that the last time Enola saw her brother, she told him he was a bastard. And that is a pretty cruel word to say to someone you love very much right before they completely disappear. Now that we finally have the full context, we return to the present moment, where Watson has taken Enola to her brother's messy room so she can analyze it and find out where or who has taken him. The young woman discovers a couple of interesting things and reveals to Watson that a Holmes never disappears without leaving clear clues for another Holmes to detect. In this particular case, the clue is on the mirror, a word written in Morse code using his fingerprints, spelling out the name Kos, a city located in Afghanistan. While she focuses on these clues, Watson reveals that the wedding guests are already returning. She realizes that she missed the most important event of her life and runs quickly to try to explain to Ernest what happened. But as she walks toward her fiancé, she notices a man wearing a uniform she hadn't seen before, and maybe it's the same person her brother was watching the night of the dinner. So she decides to follow him closely and save the matter of her fiancé for later. When this guy realizes he is being followed, he takes off running, using everything within his reach to try to slow her down. However, when Enola finally manages to catch up to him and corner him in a hallway, the mysterious man collapses, and we can see that someone has just shot him in the chest. From above, a window slams shut quickly, so fast that we can't catch a glimpse of the shooter. In his final, agonizing words, the subject mentions the word wrath, which holds absolutely no meaning for Enola at this precise moment. That night, Enola spent most of her time trying to figure out the connections in this complex case. Her brother vanished. She was suspicious of a man who is now dead, and the only things she has are two words that don't seem to have any connection at all. Furthermore, her brother's journals are filled with codes that mean nothing to her right now, and it will take her a little more time to uncover what is written inside them. A few seconds later, a shadow appears by the door, and Enola shifts into survival mode, grabbing a candlestick and striking first, without realizing she has just broken the nose of her startled fiancé, who was just trying to find the right words to say to her. This is where Enola tries to explain that she was rushing toward the wedding at full speed when Watson appeared, but the only thing the injured boy focuses on are the words full speed. This means to him that she was on the verge of backing out and wasn't sure about being his wife, and that is all he needs to hear at this moment. Ernest sincerely hopes she finds her brother. He is absolutely sure that she can do it, but as far as their relationship, their wedding, and his feelings for her are concerned, he has nothing to say right now. So he leaves the room. The next morning, the castle wakes up in a total panic due to the flames spreading through the property. Enola runs immediately to look for Ernest, who went into the fire to rescue his mother, but they haven't come out yet. Amidst the fire and dense smoke, it becomes harder and harder for her to see him. So it's time for her to use those skills she has tried so hard to hide and rescue her fiancé and future mother-in-law. Upon reaching her mother-in-law's room, Enola finds Ernest, who is desperate, trying to find her. However, she notices that the door has been forced open, meaning someone took her and she won't be found here. Watson tends to both of them, but now Enola is completely lost and has no idea if she actually has the talent to crack the clues left behind by her brother, especially now that it's not just his life at stake, but also the life of the person who matters most to Ernest. The frightened boy tells her they need to hurry. His mother isn't like Sherlock and doesn't have the strength to endure being in a situation like this. He knows this very well because he knows her to perfection. While Ernest goes to ask his uncle for help, Enola focuses on her job and what she can do. So, she goes into her mother-in-law's room and tries to reconstruct the scene, discovering that the clever kidnappers were looking for something. When they couldn't find it, they set the fire so no one else could track it down. Her valuable jewelry is untouched, meaning they aren't dealing with petty thieves. But under the mattress, there is a small box with a symbol she has seen before in her brother's journals. Inside is a bunch of medals that have no meaning for now, but she decides to take them since someone suspicious is coming and she can't be seen there. The guy tries to sneak in quietly, but Enola grabs him by the neck and demands to know where her brother is, sparking a fight. After Enola defeats him in a good, clean fight, the man introduces himself as Michiel from the Anti-Reform Party. He and many others have fought for a Malta free from the British Empire, and he is here to talk to her because he is absolutely certain that her brother's mysterious disappearance has something to do with a woman named Adeline Rath. She is a very powerful and violent woman who has the governor under her thumb, and he had been following her, hoping she might lead him to her hideout, or at least provide a way to track her down. Unfortunately, their conversation is cut short by the arrival of the police, and Michiel has to escape quickly because if he gets caught, they will throw him in a cell for the rest of his life. Enola is taken to the police station, where Sergeant Indri tries to interrogate her, and she mentions the name Adeline Rath, making the officer nervous right away. But before they can continue the conversation and learn a bit more about this mysterious woman, Samson shows up. He is the governor of Malta and ends up humiliating him, telling him that Enola is untouchable and that bringing her to this awful place is an offense he should fire him for on the spot. Right behind her is Ernest, who has come to rescue her from ending up in jail, but Enola knows that Indri could have told her valuable things and that Samson isn't protecting her, but rather protecting a dark secret. As soon as they leave the police station, Enola shows the medals to Ernest, and he tells her they belonged to his father. They were supposed to be given to them as a nice wedding gift, but he doesn't know anything else about them. A few seconds later, Samson splits up from them, and Enola can see him talking quickly to a woman, and she recognizes the embroidery on her dress as the scrap she found on the floor of her brother's room. This woman heads off toward the carnival, but she knows perfectly well that Enola is following her, so she uses this situation to lead her to a place where she can have control, a sort of underground warehouse where she manages to surprise her with a gun and tells her she shouldn't have followed her. Now, she won't get out of here. However, when Enola tries to ask her about her brother's whereabouts, the woman takes an unexpected gunshot to the back and dies before she can say anything important. Enola tries to take cover and get as close as she can, but a rope appears out of nowhere and wraps around her neck. A few seconds before she finally runs out of air, she manages to pull down the strong person on top of her, and we discover that it is Moriarty. She admits to having Sherlock locked up and has thoroughly enjoyed torturing him these past few days, additionally mocking Ernest's sad expression during the wedding. Seeing how his heart broke with every minute she delayed in arriving was wonderful for her, and she didn't have to kill him on the spot, as she highly enjoyed watching him suffer. Moriarty attacks Enola with a shovel and is on the verge of killing her when Eudora, the mother of the Holmes family, suddenly appears with a rifle, determined to save her family. At that moment, Moriarty realizes she is completely cornered, so she pulls out a glycerin grenade and throws it against the wall, smashing it to pieces and opening up a tunnel to escape immediately. Enola is very upset with her mother, but at least she came to Malta to witness her wedding, even though she wasn't willing to show herself to the public. She only wanted to see her walk down the aisle and keep that nice memory in her mind. Her mother says that if she is going to face Moriarty, she must understand that she thinks exactly like her brother, and she must look not only at what is right in front of her, but at what has been left behind. Besides that, she found out something very important. Sherlock is still alive, and Enola must do everything in her power to rescue her favorite son. After her mother tells her she isn't her favorite child, Enola returns to Ernest to reveal that the culprit behind all of this is an old nemesis, and that as far as she knows, both Sherlock and his mother are still alive. Since if Moriarty hasn't killed Sherlock, she surely hasn't done anything to his mother, which is a huge relief. After walking for a while and thinking about the case, Enola notices a beach shack and goes inside with Ernest so they can have a moment alone after everything that has happened. That night, she is finally honest with him and tells him that when she accepted to be his wife, she said yes to him and to what they had together at that moment. But then came the dinners, the high social status, the manners, everything she wasn't used to, which made her feel completely overwhelmed, as if she didn't belong to that world. She has never doubted him or spending her life by his side, only everything that comes with being a lady, since it's not what she wants for her life. At the same time that is happening, Moriarty reveals some details of her plan to Sherlock. She brags about how easy it was to trick Ernest's mother into moving the wedding to Malta, where she had already planned everything in advance since they released her a year ago. Adeline was just a pawn she used to become friends with the old woman and successfully convince her that a wedding in the place where she had married would be ideal. Sherlock offers to play along in her macabre game in exchange for her giving some water to Ernest's mother, but after a short conversation, Moriarty realizes that his hypotheses are simply vague and he hasn't impressed her at all. So just as the old woman was about to drink, she dumps the water on the floor and walks away, telling him that she has completely outsmarted him. Back at the tent, Enola receives an unexpected unexpected visit from her mother, the doctor, and Michelle, but it's Ernest who comes up with a solid clue by telling her that the mysterious woman in the purple dress was wearing a very high society hat. This means that Moriarty is being sponsored by someone important, and he has a clear idea of who that could be. Enola remembers that she was talking to two people in the street. One was the governor, but the other was wearing a strange fox mask and had blonde hair. Additionally, he was wearing medals, and after comparing them to the medals in the box, they find the correct one right away. The dead man in the alley, the governor, and the blonde guy all have the same medal, a medal with the word Afghanistan on it and the silhouette of an elephant. So the next person they need to visit is Samson, but he is currently inside the military barracks, a difficult place to infiltrate, which is why they will need the major help of Michiel and his stealth skills. But when everything else fails, it's a good thing Eudoria has a gun and uses it to overpower a police officer who takes them straight to the records room. There, they will find everything they need regarding the bloody battle in which Ernest's father, his cousins, and the highly likely villain of the story all participated. The record sheets were stolen, but the indentation marks from the writing are still there. So, by using some shaved pencil lead, they managed to uncover what they say, revealing the big secret of what happened in Afghanistan, where British and Maltese troops carried out a massacre in exchange for a ton of gold. Enola takes the evidence to Samson's office and reveals everything that happened to her fiancé. Not only that, but Samson openly admits that difficult choices are made during times of war. Samson doesn't want Ernest to think badly of his father. He loved him dearly, but the truth is that he was in charge of the entire operation, and his actions saved many British and Maltese lives, though they also took many more from innocent people fighting for their land against the empire they are now a part of. Finding out that his father was a mass murderer is not easy at all for a young man like Ernest, who has spent his entire life fighting for the poor to get what they deserve and to be treated as equals. Enola asks Samson where the gold is, and he reveals that during the return voyage, Peter, Ernest's father, had a breakdown over what they had done. So he waited for everyone to disembark and then escaped with the ship to sink it, preventing them from using that blood gold to profit from the lives they had taken. At that moment, Enola realizes the exact place where Peter hid the gold. When Ernest was little, they used to pretend they were pirates, and the day they swam at the beach, he pointed out a mysterious cave he had always wanted to explore. That is the place they are looking for. But she also realizes that it wasn't Sherlock who left the message on the mirror, nor the other clues, but Moriarty. She has been using her this whole time to solve the mystery, because she knows perfectly well that only a member of the family could have uncovered the truth, or at least someone who was on the verge of becoming family, if she hadn't gotten cold feet before the big wedding. Without wasting any time, other than to change her clothes, Enola heads straight toward the cave, where the hidden ton of gold is located, or at least that is what her deduction has told her. There, she finds a submerged chain and, after pulling it with all her strength, manages to hoist a wooden box from the bottom of the ocean. After breaking the padlock, she discovers a good amount of gold, enough for a person to live a peaceful life. But this isn't all of it. According to official records, it was a ton. When Enola tries to head back to Watson to tell him she found the gold, she discovers that Moriarty was already waiting for her with a dozen heavily armed men ready to assassinate her from every single direction. Moriarty wants the gold. She is tired of being at the service of her mind and of men whose riches were built on bloodshed, and she has suddenly decided that it's her turn to live a better life after outsmarting the cleverest man she ever knew. But just as Moriarty is about to celebrate, we discover that she isn't the only one with friends, and Ernest appears accompanied by Michiel and 20 men who faithfully follow him in his revolutionary struggle. Before they can place her under arrest, Moriarty pulls 2 grenades out of her pockets, causing panic and a shootout that she manages to escape from. But Enola follows her closely on horseback to a nearby abbey, where they engage in a fight once again, one she is not willing to lose for anything. The young woman not only manages to defeat Moriarty while armed with a knife, but she also enters the abbey and rescues her brother and her future mother-in-law. The problem is that the villain comes back with a gun and is on the verge of executing Enola, but Sherlock breaks free from his other bond and manages to surprise her from behind. Now he has the gun and is not willing to let this keep happening. A single bullet and Moriarty will no longer be a problem. He knows that prison won't hold her, only death can do it. But before Sherlock can stain his hands with blood, his mother-in-law hits Moriarty over the head with a rock, knocking her unconscious right away and preventing him from becoming a killer. A few days later, Ernest takes control of the difficult difficult situation. He promises to return the gold to the Afghans to help the people it actually belongs to. And on top of that, he begins a process to free Malta from British influence, even if that means his beloved uncle will face serious charges on the island. Once Sherlock is safe, the siblings make peace, and he apologizes for what he said that night, just as she does. There is only one matter left to resolve, and it is the event that was interrupted at the beginning of the story. The beautiful yet humble wedding between Enola Holmes and Ernest, who has renounced his title of lord so they can live a life they actually control rather than living up to anyone else's expectations. Far from luxuries and high pretensions, the happy couple gets married on the cliff where Ernest lived the best moments of his life and where he plans to build a beautiful life alongside his wife. It is a simple ceremony, surrounded by the people who love them, and that very night, they celebrate by swimming under the fireworks.